Hey everybody, it's Thursday. Thursday's a great day. You know why? Because there's nothing else to do but learn about American history today. Woo! It's like my dream come true. You're all trapped and you have nothing better to do. History. It's the best. So, what a mess, right? All this happens because the French and Indian War. So there's a French and Indian War. England wins, but it costs a lot of money. They have a lot of troops that are there to protect the proclamation line. Those troops need a place to stay, so the king's like, yo, I got this great idea. Why don't you just shack up with the colonists because they got food and stuff, and that's great. They'll take care of you. And then he wanted to pay for it, so everyone in England's like, let's just make the colonists pay for all the expensive stuff. And they didn't like that. Then the Boston Massacre happened, which you know was a gigantic mess, causing total havoc across the colonies. Then an act of rebellion, some would argue an act of terrorism, where the colonists threw about $1 million worth of tea into Boston Harbor. That was the cherry. King George was very mad about that. After that, they set some laws in place that you can read about if you'd like to, because if you're into it like I am, then you're not going to want to miss this. But it is on page 141. It's very short, 3 paragraphs, half of the page. And it's called the Intolerable Acts. And these are acts, new laws, an act as a law, that were put into effect that essentially made everything really strict in the colonies. It hit Boston the hardest because Boston was where most of the rebellion was happening at that time. The king closed Boston Harbor. It was a major trading post, major trading center for the entire colonies. Everything came in and out of Boston. It was the most direct route to England. It was the easiest route for the colonists to send things to England. They'd send it to Boston first, then on to England. It was a huge, huge hub. And when they closed it, the people of Boston really suffered. Tons of people were out of work overnight, which I think we can all relate to, that being very devastating. And they didn't know what to do. They were worried they were going to starve. No one had jobs. There was no money coming in or out. There was no goods being traded. Everything just kind of stopped. The colonists at that moment really banded together. They sent food, they sent money, they sent provisions, all to the people of Boston to make sure that they were okay, that they didn't starve. And it was the first time that the colonies truly became united over one issue. No one agreed with what the king did. It was terrible. Whether you're a loyalist or a patriot, you don't starve your citizens. So at this moment, things get really heated. And they have what's called the Continental Congress, the first one. And that's important because there are a few. So during the first Continental Congress, they had delegates come from every single colony. And this is the first time anything like this ever happened. So you have delegates from New York and from Rhode Island and from Georgia, all over the colonies. They came and they met these elected people who were there to represent their towns and their colonies and basically the people who live there. And they did a good job. They wrote a letter telling King George that they were very upset. You can read more about King George on page 142. He's a very interesting person, and it's fun to read about him. He was just a kid when he became king, and he didn't know what was going on, and he inherited a bunch of trouble. So that is something you can read, totally optional. We are also skipping chapter 12 because it's so boring. I'm not going to make you read that. And as I was trying to figure out have you read today, I got to chapter 12, which is, the good stuff. And I really got sad because the book left out this huge event in history. It was so big. It was Lexington and Concord, the first battle, and they call it the shot heard around the world. It happened in April, almost a year before they write the Declaration of Independence. And the fact that it's missing is a pretty big deal. So I'm going to stray from the textbook today, and we're going to focus just on Lexington and Concord. So it's after the First Continental Congress where everyone has met. They've told the king that they're not happy, and now they're more united than ever. And this other event happens, and it's important for you to read about. So read the directions carefully.
Awkward edit. Okay, please read those directions carefully.
And we are going to Zoom tomorrow at 10 a.m. Please try and come if you can. I know not everyone can Zoom. Even if you're just there with the audio, that's better than not. I'm going to mute everyone for the purpose of calling on you individually and letting you share out in front of the group. So, Friday, 10 o'clock, log on. Make sure your mic's on mute once we get started. Before that, I don't care. But when I say we're starting, I'll mute everyone. Please don't take it off. You have all day to mute, all weekend, all spring break, not to mute, to Zoom. So you have that whole entire time you can be talking to each other. I don't care. But when we're in that meeting for that 10-minute time, 15 minutes max, please respect the norm of making sure it's muted so that we can all hear the person who needs to talk. It's more of a morning meeting. It's a check-in. I'm going to tell you what it's going to look like after spring break. I'm going to make sure that you're sent off to spring break knowing what to do and what to look ahead for. Also, if there's things that you don't have, that's the last possible time to tell me about it. Okay. Again, read those directions carefully because today's lesson is not as clear as the others, because it's not like you read a section and then fill out a graphic organizer. There's readings attached that you have to read and a graphic organizer and a video or two. So all of that goes with the reading lesson. You will have Khan Academy today and tomorrow, and then we're going to be doing something different for math moving forward after spring break, where we will be using your Bridges book, but not this week, okay? All right, you guys have an awesome Thursday! Yay! Also, the dinosaur is no longer. I don't want to talk about it. It's too soon, but he's gone.